Hey everyone, Dave here with another episode of the Philly Tech Entrepreneurs Podcast. I'm here with Seth Goldstein. Seth is a former newspaper journalist turned digital marketer and podcaster. He's worked for a variety of news outlets over Pennsylvania and New Jersey. And after getting massively burned out, he switched to digital marketing and started his business at the best time in '08. Idea was start a business to get a job, and there's been ups and downs throughout the journey, but he wouldn't change a thing. At least that's what he wrote. He hosts a popular podcast called Entrepreneurship Enigma, where he talks about his experiences. And when he's not working, he loves to travel and spend time with his wife, son, and their air doodle, Olive. How you
Yes,
doing,
that's
Seth?
that's right. How's it going, buddy? How's always
I'm
great hanging out with you.
Thank you. Yeah, pleasure to have you on the show. I appreciate you've been coming to events at PTE since the early days. We're
Yeah.
still in early days, but even the earlier days.
Yeah.
And it's great to kind of have some time. So, I'm learning new things about you every day. Tell me about being a journalist and why you got burned out.
Well, journalism was a love of mine apparently, and everyone knew in high school that I was gonna be a journalist. I ran the school paper. I um I started a school paper, ran the school paper, but I fell in love with web design at the time. So but that was back in 2000, Y2K era, and decided that I should get a business uh, degree, but I didn't want to do accounting. So I went for history, journalism, and minors in anthropology and political science because they all show that you can write in different ways, very drastically different ways. I mean, journalism writes like every sentence is a paragraph versus like everything else is convoluted, long, paragraphs. But got hooked when now President Biden, then Senator Biden, talked to me on the phone. He's a Blue Hen alumni, so University of Delaware alumni, and I was hooked. So we got last started working for a few dailies out in South Central Pennsylvania. Did that for a while. Worked for the Bucks County Courier Times, and then the Dual Sound Intelligencer for a little while. Just overdid it and burned out. It was just I was young, scrappy, and I was like, I love this. I'm going to do this to the most of my ability. Didn't have a family at the point. I mean, I have my core family, but I didn't have like a family of my own to really worry about, so I could just kind of live it up, and I lived it up. Burned
Well,
out 6 years later, still had PTSD from the job. Decided, it was a lot. And later on, I realized I wasn't really made to be a journalist. I'm too sensitive, according to my wife. So then I left that. My then fiance and now wife was like, "Well, you've been doing web design on the side for all this time. Why aren't you going to do web design to get the experience to get the job?" Well, go to 2012 when my son was born for me to then get the job at Merck for about a year and a half, get some corporate experience, realize I can't stand corporate at all because corporate is its own beast and you're either made for corporate or you're not. And I'm not made for corporate either. So went back out, reopened up Goldstein Media. So it's been a 16-year run with Goldstein Media with a brief hiatus in the middle for about a year and a half at corporate.
that's awesome, man. Congrats.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people can obviously say that they've been kind of doing something for 16 years or so.
I can't believe
Um,
I have either.
yeah, it's must
This
don't
month,
last
this
that
month
long.
is 16 years. This month.
Happy birthday.
Yeah.
What was that switch like to digital marketing from journalism? There's some similarities, obviously, but a lot of fundamental differences. How did you kind of adapt? How did you learn the new skills?
I did go back to school to University of Arts, got a degree, got a certificate, not a degree, got a certificate in web design. That's kind of hone my skills a little bit, like a little bit more formal education behind what I kind of already knew, but kind of had to learn how the more advanced technologies. Did and the main difference between the two is that one, you had to be completely factual, completely technically above board, whereas marketing you can kind of be more creative and now I would never say lie, but you could
Embellish.
present things differently. And it was nice to be a bit more creative. And the whole time I was a journalist, I was doing websites for people on the side because when you're a journalist, you're not making any money. I mean, it's you don't make a lot of money as a journalist unless you make it to like the old gray lady, the New York Times or something. Then you're making okay money. But so I've been doing that on the side. So it's kind of natural progression because a lot of journalists they either go into marketing or they go into PR. More going to PR because we're bombarded by PR when we're journalists, so it's kind of natural that we know what we're talking about, so we go over to PR. I never wanted to do PR, so I was like, let me do marketing because that's what I had originally gone to school wanting to do is digital marketing. So, and that eventually moved from websites into SEO, into digital marketing strategy, into video optimization, into email marketing. Let's put all the keywords in here so YouTube finds us very well
It's
here.
good. Yeah, I love all this.
Podcast production kind of happens.
Optimization, etc. Analytics. Let's just throw it all in there.
Exactly. So I was doing podcasting since 2010. So I was like, this is a cool medium. Kind of taps into my journalism roots a little bit. And so Entrepreneurship Enigma was a pandemic project. This kind of skyrocketed into something that I didn't know was going to happen. So
yeah. Talk to me about writing. You're a guy who's obviously written a lot in various forms. What does it take to be a good writer?
trial and error and practice. And also now, I mean, you can get the rough draft out in AI, but never take the AI draft and put it out there. But you can get your ideas out with help of AI and then kind of work with it. We didn't have AI back then. So we had to come up, get past that blank sheet problem and put, words on paper. And I mean, yeah, it was demoralizing a lot of times when you go to your editor with the story and they're like, well, this needs to be changed. This paragraph needs to go up here. And you're like, well, I'm a writer. He's like, you're a writer. You're not an editor. And the editor is a separate set of eyes on your work. I mean, I feel like everyone needs, even when you do website copy, I read through everything my content writers write because they write well, but they can also write good.
Yeah.
And if they're very good, they're not writing correctly. So I'm like, So I have to go through and kind of read through what they write, make sure it makes sense and all that, and they'll nothing, not to knock them or anything like that. I mean, that's fine. But it's another set of advice is kind of crucial when you write. You always need to hand it off to somebody, hand it off to a significant other, hand it off to your coworker and say, hey, just read this through real fast. Does it make sense?
Yeah. I love that, the trial and error, which is so true. It's so true in like many different kind of specialities, and then making sure that you're getting that fresh pair of eyes on it. I personally think that writing is maybe one of the most valuable skills I've ever learned. When you think about, whether it's a long form blog post or just email, or even just like how to write a WhatsApp message to my wife so she doesn't get mad at me. All these different types of things, it's all really writing and communication. I think it's a super important learned skill. But you're not just a writer, you're also a man of words, spoken words, that is. You have a podcast, Entrepreneur's Enigma. How do you like that transition? Talk to me about podcasting. I haven't had anyone on the show who does their own podcast. What do people need to know before they start one?
Just get started. It's that simple. And keep going. You're going to get better. The first is going to be a cluster F. It's going to be a dumpster fire. And I would not get rid of this. I would still post them, put them out there. We're all going up on 200 episodes of Entrepreneurs Enigmas, shockingly. I can't believe I've done this many. And it's been like the first few are not like they are now. And I go back and listen to them. I'm like, oh, this is cringeworthy. I should get rid of these. But I'm like, no, this just shows the progression. And remember, you're not NPR. You're not trying to be Terry Gross. You're not trying to be Marty Moscowane over at WHYY over in Philly, where we're from. You're not trying to be. It's not radio. It's podcasting. You're like we're not trying to be like, Dave's pretty buttoned up here, but but we're not trying to be NPR. We're not trying to be public radio. We're not trying to be. We're more like Barsky in the morning, if you remember that. It's more like chewing the fat, having fun. And then don't be overly into the editing. I mean, you want to over edit because then it's like choppy, and people can tell you over edited it. Whereas it's like if there's ums and ahs, fine. If it goes then you might want to edit that out. I wouldn't edit that out, Dave, because I was making an example, but you know what I mean.
So finding that balance. So yeah, basically we're in the middle of a dumpster fire right now. I don't even know it. It's an early episode. It's great though. No, I hear what you're saying, because and it was, I asked you for advice. So I said, hey, I'm starting this show. Like, what should I do? Zoom? Should I do Google Meets? He's like, and you said it doesn't matter. Just do something. Just kind of get it out there.
Exactly. I mean, eventually I went and moved to the StreamYard. I do everything on StreamYard now, not to stream, just to use their tools. But I use Riverside, and they've blown up in my face a few times. It's just you try and error. I had a guy on 3 times for the same podcast because I kept on screwing it up. I felt really bad, but
it happens.
It happens.
Wi-Fi craps out. Different things happen. Last Last little question here is the one I hate to even kind of bring it up because it's the one that everybody kind of asks,
Yeah,
when they're talking with someone in digital marketing. And you mentioned AI and
yeah.
obviously your background in writing and web design and stuff like that. It sounds like occasionally you'll dip into the tools and then you'll edit them and stuff like that. How are you feeling about AI content creation, the type of content we're seeing these days? Your thoughts?
I love the idea of AI. I think you have to be wary about it. You have to kind of, it eats its own tail. It hallucinates. I was on a call prior to this where a guy said that he was doing his dissertation. He needed 10 more citations to read through. Well, it gave him 8 good citations and me up 2. So don't assume that it's always correct. Check your citations. Check your content. Make sure what it's spitting out is correct. Edit it to put it in your voice. Add more detail, add less detail, get rid of the in conclusion that they put at the bottom. It's like a fifth grader.
That 5 paragraph essay format.
It does.
Uh, that
It's
we
it's
all
like,
learned in school.
beginning, middle, end. But then it's in conclusion or in summary. I'm like, nah, I don't write that way.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, we can't use that. So
Steph, love the straight shooter sort of approach that you take to answering questions. For people that want more of your content, whether it's your podcast, whether it's your agency, where can they go and find you?
well, goldsteinmedia.com is right there. Where that's specifically as a
Ooh, you have a
prop.
hat. Okay.
I have a hat. I have a few hats. I also have the Entrepreneur's Enigma hat.
Oh.
To switch that around, real time switching around, exactly. Yeah, I'm bald, so you kind of need hats to keep it's in the summer to keep your head from scorching.
Sunburning, right?
Exactly, but so you can go to entrepreneursenigma.com. I also do a newsletter, a weekly newsletter. I don't know where I find the time to do it over at marketingjunto.com.
Awesome.
Or find me on LinkedIn. Just look for Seth Goldstein.
We will post that as well. I look forward to being a guest on your show in the next
Yes, in a
month or
few weeks we're
so.
gonna get you out there.
And
Yeah,
thank you so much for being just a supportive member of the community.
I love it. It's great. Thank you for having me, and thank you for doing the community because that's a process in its own beast.
It is. See you, man.
See you, bud.